hear the logic, but like my thing is, I understand it. Like, obviously, I understand it. And like, even Brandon, who's been quite critical on Arteta, he said, you know what, Anfield, I kind of allow you. I'll give you some excuses for that. I think we can do that kind of thing. I think we're loyal to our system. I think we all can recognize all the aspects of defending throughout the whole team we can do. But it's like being in a fight. It does feel like, yeah, to a degree, attack is your best form of defense. It's like we can jab, we can bob, we can weave. At some point, you have to throw punches. We don't go the other way. So bearing in mind, we saw that Newcastle last season, and we saw it against Bournemouth as well. Surely the time's come to, I don't know, and it still might not work. If Odegaard's fit, get him in there to play Eze, to play Wanyeri, because it feels that's the only thing we're missing. And
but you know,
it does feel like it's crippling us now.
You're feeling that way. The reason is because of we're not getting the wins. If we had beaten City today, for example, I don't think people would have been too mad at playing that in Newcastle, even if we played a different lineup against City. Like, let's say, for example, Eze did start and we beat them. I don't think if he reverted back to that against Newcastle, we wouldn't be as mad. I think it's the fact that we've dropped points and now we need to climb that back and we need to claw that back. And unfortunately, as bad as we've been at St. James's Park, that is the 3 points we need to be clawing back. Even if we're looking at that game and going, at the beginning of the season, we may have been happy with a draw, but circumstances have changed and it is now a must win and a 3-pointer we have to go and get.
For me, they can always do these things in games. Now, obviously, Eze could have started and we could have been talking about the same things. And I get the rhetoric, but you could have gone there with Eze in the 10, or you could go Newcastle with Eze in the 10, and all the things us Arsenal fans want to see. Obviously, in game, you might have to put Marino in midfield. I don't think anyone's about that against that. But why doesn't he? Why for you lot is Mikel Arteta never like? We're loyal to the system for one, but why are we never on the front foot? Because I think a lot of the frustration beyond the obvious is, pardon, say that again. We never done it at home. Go on.
It's backwards, bro. It's backwards. Like, people are criticizing Pep today, right? Because he brought on 7 defenders. But at least when he put his starting lineup out there, he had all of his attacking players out there. Foden was out there. Reinders was out there. Rodri was out there. Yeah, Doku was out there. Haaland was out there. So he starts with the team that he thinks is best suited to win the game, and not get a draw or not to not lose. But he starts with the team that's best suited to win the game, and then his in-game management comes when he's looking at it thinking, okay, Arsenal are having the majority of the ball now, and maybe I need to bring on a few more defenders, etc. Whereas with Arteta, it's like he's starting to not lose the game, and then when it's not going our way, he will then bring the attacking players on. It's backwards. It's the wrong way round. You should have started with Eze today, and then if he needed to, bring Marino off the bench when we're winning the game.
I would have done with that.
There's balance to be had, in my opinion. I think where I can understand his thought process is because previously when we've been front-footed, we have actually costed ourselves as well. Like, for example, the Anfield games, there were times that we've gone 2-0 up at Anfield and then we've cost ourselves because a moment in the game has changed. And then obviously we've conceded 2-2. And at that point, you can't really change it because the momentum's on our side. When the momentum shifts and we bring Marino on, let's say 30 minutes into the game because we're 2-0 up now, it's too early to panic. And that's kind of where I think Arteta, he just needs to learn the balance of when it's like, what kind of games and states is right. I don't think Anfield this early in the season needed that because they looked vulnerable. I think that's kind of where he needs to let go of the factor of Anfield or the Etihad.
That ain't gone for blood against City or at Liverpool. That's my disappointment.
But that also shows the lack of trust that he has for his players. Because if we're saying here, yeah, but it is those souls. Because if we're saying here that we have to have 3, let's just say, more defensive-minded, safe midfielders, yeah, then that tells me you don't trust your defence to do its job. But in truth, when you look at our back 4, you don't really need anybody in particular in that midfield. Well, you could have one deep-lying midfielder.
Rice protecting as well.
Yeah, you can have one protector in the midfield. But really and truly, does our back 4 need 3 deep-lying, defensive-minded, non-attacking minded midfielders in there? No, they don't.
I don't think Marino's role is to actually be a deep-lying player. I know that's how he's been looking because a lot of people have caught on to the fact of what he's going to do, which is box crush, basically. That's his role. He's meant to be that extra man in the attack, but it's just not working. That's kind of where the problem is. I understand why he's doing it with the profile he's got, but it's just not happening. Anfield, Liverpool kind of covered that off, and they knew he's going to make late runs, and that's what they stopped. City did the same thing because they pushed us into our own half, not allowing Marino the ability to kind of go press forward. So that's kind of where the kind of issue and kind of balance that I want to bring, because as much as it is trusting the players, it's also kind of looking at the profiles that you have and saying, how do we best nullify the opposition that we're playing? And that's kind of what he did at Anfield. I agree with what he did today. I don't agree. The midfield didn't need to be that today. But what
at the same time, though, Sauls, just
profiles are going to stop them.
Yeah, but just real quick though, Sauls, this is half the problem with him. He's quick to look at what will nullify the opposition rather than what we're going to do to beat the opposition. Do you know what I mean? He's more let's nullify the opposition and then go and win the game, rather than let's go and win the game and then we'll see how we're going to nullify the opposition, right? And I'm going to say something a bit out there. I'm going to say something a little bit out there, right? But I've said this for majority of the season since the transfer window shut. I actually think 2 changes gets the best out of this Arsenal team. I actually think that our back 4 is good enough to only have one deep lying midfielder sitting there, either Rice or Zubimendi. You take your pick. You could play Odegaard in the 8 because I think he's more of an 8 than he is a 10 anyway, and then you could put Eze in the 10. You could afford to have two more attack-minded midfielders in that midfield. And I think that would make a huge difference to Arsenal and the way that we play and the goals that we score and the rate of goals that we'd be scoring, you know? But to have 3 players in that midfield that are not really that great going forward just doesn't make any sense to me. It's more, let's nullify the opposition rather than let's go and win the game. And that's why I say he is an enemy of football, and he's the biggest problem at this football club, because nobody can tell me now that he hasn't got the tools to do the job. We've got more than enough quality in this side now and strength in depth in order to go on multiple fronts.
Yeah, but this isn't the time of the season to start questioning it to that level. Now, I do agree there's certain criticisms that need to be put on him, and he needs to be held accountable for certain things that he's doing. But I don't think it's a big question of like, do we sack him on all of this sort of stuff? And is he the one that's not going to win us the league? Because I do think, look, it's a learning curve, and if he doesn't learn from it, then yeah, 100% I agree. Like, if these are the reasons why we lose the league, for example, or we don't win a Champions League, then yeah, I agree. The context goes out the window, like regardless of injuries and stuff like that, because you have now got the squad. Whereas with previous seasons, yes, people made excuses for him to stay, and that's kind of where this season draws a line. Now, if he learns from this and we go on to the season and he starts playing Eze, Odegaard, whoever, and doesn't play this midfield 3 unless, like I said, there's major injuries, etc., then you kind of can afford him to be like, okay, cool. You've learned from your mistakes. You're learning from like what your squad is capable of doing. Because don't forget, it's not necessary that Eze at Crystal Palace is going to be the Eze at Arsenal. It's not about the manager stifling them. It's whether they can make that step up as well. And so far, Eze is showing to be able to do that. But it's whether the manager can see it as well. And also, like, you know, what Gyökeres can do in this Arsenal team, what Madueke can do in this Arsenal team.
But at the same time, though, an element
of other clubs and where they've come from, but you need to also let them learn the system before you can just go, yeah, here you go, have free reign.
I haven't actually seen anything to say that he can learn, though. And what I mean by that, right?
I mean, it's 5 game weeks.
Go back to the I know, but go back to the season when we first competed for the league, and we should have won it. You know, 8 games to go, 8 points clear. We should have won it, right? And in the end, what ended up costing us was the fact that we went too attack minded, and we ended up conceding and dropping points stupidly against Southampton 3-3 at home. You know, games like that. The following season, we went the opposite way, and we nearly got over the line. We was even closer that season. So to me, and then last season, well, we was just nowhere near, really. We had injuries that hurt us, but, you know, Arteta refused to change from the season before. So he learned from the first season in the sense that we opened up far too much. But he hasn't yet kind of put that first season to one side in his mind for me. It still feels like the handbrake's on with this team, no matter who's in it. You know, no matter who we play in this team, no matter who's in the squad, it feels like the handbrake's on all the time, because he's still worrying about us opening up too much and it ended up costing us in the long run. When in reality, what we're seeing right now is we're not opening up enough. Do you know what I mean?
So how does he change that then for you lot?
For me, I've said it before. I think we can afford to play one deep lying midfielder and have two more attack-minded midfielders in there. I think he's got options all over the board, DG.
Yeah,
you know, when I say he's not learning, we all said last season when Odegaard got injured, why isn't Ethan Nwaneri playing? Why is he not playing in that 10? And now we're seeing the same thing again this season.
We know
Odegaard's out injured. And rather than playing Eze or rather than playing Ethan, he's playing Marino. Like, what are you doing?
When Ethan played a consistent games, I think it was his third game, he got injured. He had a knock. That's the reason he's not going to play consistently, because he's still developing. There's certain players who are physically ready and their bodies are physically developed. And there's certain players who, once you put that strain on their body, especially at a professional level, they start to pick up these knocks and you have to balance it.
Souls, again, he's not required.
Completely don't play him.
He's not. Hang on. Ethan's not required to play multiple games like he would have been last season, because we know Odegaard isn't going to be out for very long. In fact, I suspect he will be back for the Newcastle game, right? And even if Ethan can't step into that role, Eze can. So we've got options. We've got players available. And why I say he's not learning from last season, well, Odegaard was out last season, and what cost us? We didn't have enough creativity in that 10. We was trying all these different players and it wasn't working out. The only one he didn't want to try was Ethan Nwaneri. And now Odegaard's out injured again and he's playing fucking Marino there. I just don't understand the guy. I really don't. He's so... he makes me angry. He really does.
It's a frustrating day at the office, man. Like, I do want to ask you lot this as well. Like, what did you lot make of Martinelli's impact? Because it's been 2 games in a row. He's come off the bench and done well. I personally think he's in the great little super sub role he should be. Like, what do you lot make of Martinelli?
I wanted Martinelli sold in the summer. Yeah, I was one of them who thought, do you know what? The guy, he's not really improved massively on his since he burst into the Arsenal side. He still, runs with his head down. He still doesn't make the best decisions. And I think the majority of his game that he was good at when he first came into Arsenal was kind of been coached out of him by Arteta, and in the sense that, the taking on of players, you don't really see Martinelli do that too often now, because it is all about the system and it is all about keeping the ball. So to me, it was like, okay, if we can sell Martinelli, he's one asset that we have at the football club that could potentially bring in some money in order for us to go and reinvest in a player that might be better suited for Mikel Arteta. However, he's holding bench at the moment. I think he deserves to hold bench as well, because I don't think his performances have been that great when he has played from the start. But he's coming on and he's doing his job, and that's all you can ask from a player. If you're not performing at a level and you end up dropping to the bench, you've got to then work your way back into this team. Nothing should be a given at Arsenal. It doesn't matter who you are. You shouldn't be a guaranteed starting player at Arsenal Football Club, because if you've got this amount of quality at your disposal, everybody's place should be up for grabs. You should be fighting every week for your place. So the fact that Martinelli's coming off the bench and he's doing the business, that's good. That's good. Do I still want him sold, and do I still think he's good enough to play for us? I would say I probably still want him sold eventually, but all you can ask is that he does the business when he comes off the bench, and that's what he's been doing. So big up to him.
Facts. Souls, what are you saying?
For me, Trossard needs to stay as a super sub, or he needs to be sold, or Arteta needs to go get therapy, because I don't know what the reasonings ever for starting Trossard are. I will never understand it.
That's probably the only thing I was shocked with the lineup today.
Yeah. I will never, ever, 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 ever. I don't care even if he scores a hat-trick from starting, I'll still question it. Because the thing is, why? Because he never starts well. Every time he starts, he's shit. And I don't care if people are going to say, oh, he looked bright. No, he didn't. He looked shit. Let's put it point blank. And Martinelli, you're a super sub. That's your role. I don't care if you want to start. I don't care if you score a hat-trick off the bench. You are going to be our super sub, period. We need to stop this, they came off the bench and performed. They came off the bench and performed because they had tired legs, and that's their role in this team. And that is just how it's going to be. This is how we have to move forward. And for me, I agree with you, Brandon. We need to be like Fergie. We need to learn when it's time to move on from certain players. Martinelli's had more than enough and ample opportunities to develop and show himself to be the starting left winger. He's had it competition free for most of it as well, and he hasn't really stepped up to the plate. I do actually think I want to see him down the middle. I want to see him come on for a Gyökeres and actually change the game that way, because I do think centrally, closer to goal, is where he bangs. And if we're not going to do that, then there's just no point. They should just leave him. Like, what is the point of Martinelli if you're not going to get him closer to goal? If you're going to play him as a touchline winger, don't do it. Just go get someone from the academy who can do that better. Go get someone from the crowds. I'm sure there's plenty of touchline wingers who play Sunday League that can do better than Martinelli, because you have to recognize the strength of your players, and that's what it is. So I'm not getting fooled. You scored a great goal. You did great against Bilbao. Very well done. I'm proud of you. But you're coming off the bench, my brother. If you don't like it, Edu at Nottingham Forest will happily take you.
The only other surprise about today as well was I thought he would have come on sooner, because when I see City bringing on Núñez at right back, and I'm like, this guy ain't a right back, he's a midfielder. Surely you've got to get Martinelli on now with his pace to test him. And he kept Trossard on for 80-odd minutes. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I think we saw the good, bad, and the ugly of Arteta today. Not so much good, because I've seen better, but it was just the good, bad, and the ugly. On one hand, I like the fact that Eze and Saka obviously came on. I thought Saka looked bright, but I'm with everyone. I think Eze needed to start. I do think Arteta shat the bed in the last two big games. And not like, I understand the Anfield stuff and being a bit more conservative. And I won't quite say Liverpool were their